Have you ever had one of those moments when you were doing something completely ordinary, drinking coffee, looking out the window, walking alone, and suddenly something inside you stopped? Not in a bad way. The way a song stops you when it plays and you recognize something you didn't know you'd been waiting for. A clarity, a feeling that everything is exactly where it should be, that you are exactly where you should be. No thought caused it, no effort. It just happened, and then it passed, and you were left there trying to understand what that was. Most people call it intuition, others call it presence, some call it grace. Quantum physics has another name for it. And what scientists have discovered over the last 20 years about this phenomenon: inside living cells, inside neurons, inside the most fundamental processes of biology, is going to completely change the way you understand those moments, because they are not random, and they are not metaphor. There is something happening in your body right now that no computer ever built by human hands can replicate. It's not your heart beating. It's not your lungs breathing. It's something more fundamental than that. Right now, as you watch this video, approximately 37 trillion cells are executing a coordination process of such staggering precision that any deviation of just a few degrees in temperature, or pH, or electrical gradient would shut everything down within minutes, without any conscious instruction from you, without you having to manage any of it, just happening. The conventional explanation is biochemical: proteins binding to receptors, electrical cascades, molecular signals. That explanation is true, and it is incomplete, because when you go deeper than the cell, deeper than the molecule, deeper than the atom, you reach a level where the rules of classical physics simply stop working, where particles exist in multiple states at the same time, where systems connect across space with no physical signal between them, where observing something changes what is being observed. That level is not theoretical. It is not philosophical. It is where the most sophisticated biology on this planet executes its most critical functions, and birds, plants, and possibly your own neurons are using it right now. In 2008, a biophysicist named Thorsten Ritz published a study that created a significant problem for conventional biology, something entirely new, something that had never been seen before. Ritz had been studying how migratory birds, swallows, pigeons, thrushes, managed to navigate thousands of miles with pinpoint accuracy using the Earth's magnetic field. How is that even possible? How can something so extraordinarily complex be mastered by a bird? For decades, biology had been working with a mechanical explanation. Tiny particles of magnetite in the birds' beaks were acting like a compass. Simple, elegant, classical. The problem was that this explanation didn't fit the data. What Ritz demonstrated was something else entirely. Something far deeper and more complex. The magnetic navigation of migratory birds depends on a process called the radical pair effect, a chemical reaction that only works through quantum mechanics, specifically through quantum entanglement between electrons inside proteins called cryptochromes located in the bird's eyes. Birds literally see the Earth's magnetic field through quantum entanglement at room temperature, inside a living organism. Everything that physics said would make quantum entanglement impossible in biological systems, the heat, the noise, the molecular complexity. Birds had simply ignored for 400 million years of evolution. This put a question on the table that biology is still trying to answer. If evolution selected quantum mechanics for navigation, if nature discovered that quantum processes produce results that classical processes simply cannot replicate, where else is it using this? The answer that the last 15 years of research has produced is uncomfortable for the conventional model. It's in the sense of smell. It's in photosynthesis. It's in enzyme catalysis. And it's present according to a hypothesis that still divides physics and neuroscience inside the microtubules of your neurons. To truly understand this, we need to go even deeper. So here is what is not taught in most biology courses. The framework we use to understand living organisms, classical biochemistry, electrical signals, receptors and ligands, was built on Newtonian physics. It works remarkably well for approximately 99% of medical applications. But it has a ceiling. The hard problem of consciousness, the question of how physical processes generate subjective experience, has remained unanswered after more than 100 years of neuroscience. Not because scientists aren't smart enough, but because the framework they're working within may not contain the tools necessary to answer that question. Physicist Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff put forward a proposal that most neuroscientists still cannot fully refute and cannot fully confirm: that consciousness emerges from quantum computations inside neuronal microtubules. That what we call thought, decision, and subjective experience is, at least in part, a quantum phenomenon. There is no consensus on this. There is compelling data and a very much alive debate. What there is consensus on is simpler and more unsettling. Quantum biology is real. It is documented across multiple systems, and the classical model cannot explain how it works. That leaves a gap, and in the gaps is where the most important questions live. About 6 months ago, it was probably 2 a.m. I had been trying to create something for months. I didn't quite know what. I had the feeling of what I wanted to say, but I couldn't find the form. Every attempt would start and then lose the thread. It wasn't a lack of effort. It was like trying to tune into a frequency I knew existed but couldn't find. That night, at some point I can't precisely identify, something shifted. It wasn't a new idea. It was as if the ideas that had been circling for months suddenly stopped spinning and found a direction, a clarity, not emotional, but cognitive. The architecture of what I wanted to build was finally visible. I finally knew what to do. I wasn't lost anymore. What I didn't have in that moment was the scientific vocabulary to describe what had happened, but I knew what to do. After diving deep into quantum biology, I have a hypothesis. What I experienced may have been a state transition. A system, my nervous system, my cognitive processes, moving out of decoherence and into something more organized, not through effort, through the collapse of the search space. And if you want to go deeper on quantum transition, I made a very complete video talking about exactly that. It may be something you need to hear. I'll leave the link in the description. Before we go further into quantum biology, I want you to know that I created an ebook, a practical guide for anyone going through a difficult moment or a quantum transition. I can help because I've been through it and I'm still in it. Inside the ebook, you'll find the best ways to move through that transition as lightly as possible. I created it with a lot of care because I don't want you to struggle the way I did. And soon, I'll be releasing a complete book on quantum reflection. More news coming in the next videos. Stay close. The universe is trying to speak to you. The link to a lighter path through transition is in the description and pinned comment. I hope it helps. What quantum biology is suggesting is not that you are made of magic. It's more precise than that, and stranger. It's that the most fundamental level of operation of living systems, from the navigation of a bird to energy transfer in a plant, possibly all the way to the processes that produce thought and consciousness, operates in a regime where classical physics does not apply, where the separation between the system and the environment observing it is not clear, where information behaves in ways that matter cannot, where coherence, the precise alignment of processes, produces results that no model of random noise can generate. The bird that migrates 10,000 miles and lands on the same nest, on the same branch, is not calculating. It is coherent with a field that its quantum sensors can read directly. That moment you had, of sudden clarity, of feeling that everything is exactly in place, may not be supernatural. It may be your system operating in the regime it was built for. And if that's true, the question is not philosophical. It's practical. What are the conditions that allow or prevent that state? The bird doesn't decide to navigate using the Earth's magnetic field. It doesn't choose to use quantum entanglement. Its structure allows it, and then the process happens. For a system as complex as a human being, the question is different, because you have history, memory, patterns of processing that either support coherence or systematically interrupt it. If you've had one of those moments of clarity you can't explain, or if you have questions about how biophysics and consciousness intersect, I want to hear how you're investigating that. Leave your experience in the comments. I may bring your question or your story into a future video to help others who need to hear it. Because the investigation moves in the direction of the most precise questions. If this is your first time here and you made it to the end of this video, subscribe and become part of this quantum project. We have an incredible community of people here. Leave a like and share this with someone who needs to hear it, but you don't have to leave just yet. Click on the video appearing on screen and keep going with me on this quantum journey. I'll see you there.